Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be on this planet. We are so glad to have you here. We are happy that you are sending us your questions, your concerns, and you are so active in our Courageous Leadership with Virginia Prodan podcast. We welcome each one of you. And for those of you who are new, I'm Virginia Prodan, the host of Courageous Leadership with Virginia Prodan. I am an international human rights attorney, a speaker, and author of my memoir, Saving My Assassin. You can find it at virginiaprodanbooks.com. We are so glad you are here. I have a question for you because we have a great speaker. What is your favorite movie? I know everyone has a favorite movie. Everyone likes to see movies or even dream about creating a movie. So today, make sure that you create a quiet place around you and you focus on everything that our guest, Hannah Puder, will tell us. Hannah is a media professional with over a decade of experience in film industry. As a producer, she has worked on future documentaries, numerous short form documentary, while also producing commercial in the DMV area for the past 8 years. Hannah holds a bachelor degree in film and communication and a master's degree in business law from Regent University. Welcome to our podcast, Hannah.
Thank you so much for having me on, Virginia.
Tell us how you started.
How I started in the film industry?
Yes.
So, I grew up and volunteered when I was a teenager at my local church in the production department. I attended a large church, 4,000 people. So it had a big production department. And I just started volunteering and fell in love with film and making content. And then from there, I decided I wanted to make that my career. So I went to Regent University Film School, also got my master's in business law, and then have now been working in the film industry for over 10 years.
Wow. So many people have questions about when I train them or I coach them. How do you find your purpose in life? So, what attracts you as a young person to volunteer? What did you find in you that was something about your purpose?
I think, sometimes starting out, it's hard to know what to do with your life. There's a million options, and you feel like you're going to make the wrong decision if you do the wrong thing, right? So sometimes there's a lot of pressure. How do I make sure my life turns out right? Well, for me, my parents had always instilled in me a desire to volunteer and to give back. And so also, I like to be challenged. So anything technical or that you have to plan out, such as like a film shoot or a production, there's a ton of logistics to it and a technical side. So that fit my personality and my natural skill set. So once I started volunteering and realizing that, hey, this is something I enjoy, I work well in this environment, I realized it was a great path to go down.
That is so interesting that you say two things, and I'll try to follow up on one. You said you like to be challenged. Tell us and tell people when you are challenged, how do you keep that going and not being discouraged by the challenge?
In film production, there are a million things that can go wrong every day. You can have your crew cancel the day of, talent cancel, something happens with talent, people are late, logistics close down, your location decides you can't shoot there last minute, you have to find a new location. Everything is extremely logistical, and what I have found that really helps in those challenging situations is if you know the determined outcome that you have to get at the end of the day with your project, as long as you keep focused and really have a good attitude and realize, okay, life is, it doesn't matter what you do, right? Every single job has challenges you have to overcome, unpredictable situations. But as long as you have a mentality that, okay, I can handle this, I can figure it out. If this something may not be exactly how I planned, but I can adjust and I can adapt. That really takes a level of discipline and being willing to change. My personality is very type A, so I actually didn't used to have a flexible personality at all. But I've had to change my personality to fit what I do. To your point, otherwise people have a meltdown, right? When challenges come, people have a meltdown because you don't know how to handle it. But if you allow yourself to breathe, to think through the situation and realize that you can overcome it, just step by step, challenge by challenge, it's possible.
I agree with you because I always think that the challenge is an opportunity that God is giving you to let Him change you into the person that you're supposed to be. Because we always have something in mind, but God already put skills and talents in our life specific in order to do our mission. And you also mentioned something about the joy that you have by doing what you were supposed to do. The Bible tells us that in God's presence there is joy. And when you couple that joy with the joy of discovering the gifts and the joy to give these gifts to others to enrich their lives and also for people to see God's glory in you, that is amazing. How was the joy in your life, helping you in a time of challenges?
Just like you mentioned, God's given us all a talent. And throughout the New Testament, Jesus' ministry on earth, he talks about being faithful with talents, right? So sometimes that literally does mean money, but a lot of times it goes way beyond that. It means our family, our skills, the gifts that God has given us. What do we do with those? And so when we are good stewards and we recognize, okay, I have a talent for this, okay, I have a talent for that, what does the Bible say, or what did Jesus say in those parables? That if you don't use those talents, what ends up happening to them? They're taken away. They're given to someone else, right? So we all have skill sets and gifts that God has called us to. And when we are good stewards, and what that simply means is using those gifts, developing them, right? Making them grow into something for the kingdom of God. And when you do that, even though you will go through dark seasons, will go through challenging times. The joy of the Lord really is your strength because you are flowing in how God designed you to operate when you're using those skills and you're being faithful to use them for the kingdom of God.
Obviously you're very young when you started to volunteer and discover all those things. I remember in my book Saving My Assassin, I describe a situation when I was in front of the judge who knew me very well, but he wanted to have a little bit of fun that day. And I was very young at that time, and because in Romania at that time we didn't have between 12th grade and graduate school college. We went to 12th grade directly to law school. So I was very young, and I have ponytails, and I remember him putting when I said I represent those clients, Your Honor, he put the glasses a little bit low, and he looked to me and he said, "Kids are not allowed in a courtroom." Oh my gosh. I was so upset. And when I left the courtroom, I went to my hairstylist and I asked her to make me look older and everything. But because when you are young, you have to win the trust. He was joking at that time, But tell us at that young age, when you started, how you won the trust of people around you to give you more responsibilities.
It starts very simple. I'm going to go back to the parable of the talent. You start small, right? It's as easy starting off, when you're young, you don't have experience, no one really knows what you're capable of, just showing up on time. And then from there, people start to give you more responsibility. Oh, okay, she showed up on time. What's next? Oh, well, let's give her a raise. Let's put her in a higher position. Oh, she handled that well. Everything was on time. Everything was professional. Maybe she can handle this, right? So it's a very biblical principle that when you are good in the small way, you're disciplined, you show up on time, you're professional, you're patient, you're kind, you're just a good person as well. It really does pay off because people begin to notice that, because not everyone is disciplined, not everyone is on time. So when you are faithful in those beginning steps, it just begins to grow. Now it doesn't happen right away, but through time and through being diligent and disciplined and growing in your craft, whatever your skill set is. For me, as a film producer, getting better on the logistical side. That's why I got a master's in business law, so I understand negotiations and contracts, and right. So again, back to stewarding those skills. As you grow, the Lord continues to bless them and you continue to grow your talents.
You are so right, because the Bible tells us about going the extra mile. And anytime you go the extra mile, you are rewarded. You are rewarded by God. You are rewarded by people. And today, even today in America, with the culture that is in many ways mocking Christians or trying to marginalize them, we have the greatest opportunity ever, because like you said, not everybody has discipline, not everybody is doing the extra mile. And people, if they like Christian or not, they will like you going the extra mile. They will always say, oh, let's keep this person, she does more than we ask this person for. So I encourage everyone to learn to do the extra mile. And like you said, don't wait and expect that the next day you will be promoted, but you will be promoted in one way or another, because when you go the extra mile, people will see and will benefit from you. So tell us, what was the turning point? What was the point where you said, hey, I got the job?
Yeah, so, volunteering for a while, I realized it was what I wanted to go into. And then after coming out of film school and getting my master's, I work as a freelance producer. So, as a freelance producer and director, you're always getting jobs. You're always pitching to new clients. I just had a pitch this morning. So, like, you're constantly pitching to new clients to get new work. So, you're never in a situation where I got the job, I'm good, right? You're continually working to build your own company, to build new clients, to build new relationships with vendors. So it's a continual work in process, till you get where you want to go. And for me, I'm in the process of building a film company. One of the reasons I believe you have me on the show is because of my new documentary, Operation Arnon, that released. It's a short film documentary. So I'm building a documentary side of my business. And so doing that, documentaries are very long term. Sometimes they take 2 to 3 to 4 years to make one documentary. So it's a long game. You're constantly looking for work and then have several projects you're working on at one time.
And what I understand, or what I take from you, is being teachable. It's a very important element in your life, because with every client you have something different. Even with your own company, things are changing and you need to learn new things and so forth. How do you advise people to be teachable?
I'm really glad you brought that up because being teachable is so important. The moment that you think that you've arrived, you have not arrived. And that's an important principle of being a good steward of your talent, is constantly learning and remaining humble, and not humble to the effect of, oh, I can't do anything. That's false humility, which is actually pride. But knowing that you're capable to do what you're called to do your job, but at the same time, always looking to other people for advice, always looking for someone. Hey, how can I find a mentor? How can I find someone that's done what I haven't done? How can I learn? Right? So, as long as you stay teachable and curious, curiosity is very important. We have to say curious in your skill set or whatever your talents are, to realize that there are other people that are doing something different than you, and it may be better. And that's okay, right? You can learn from that. As long as we learn from each other, we're not in a competition with anyone, because no one's doing the same thing. You may be in the same field, you maybe have similar talents, but no one has your calling, and God has specific assignments and missions for you. So as long as you're teachable and able to work with other people and learn and stay humble, you're going to be fine.
I'm glad you said that. We are not in competition with anyone. We are just a small puzzle in a big picture that we all together create the picture of Christ for the whole world to see it. So it's very important for people. I notice a lot of them are trying to compare themselves with others. And that is not coming from God, because God created us unique with unique talents, and we lower our value by comparing ourselves with others. So stop doing that. Look for things that are specific in your area. And like you said, not only be teachable, but try to find a mentor, try to find what is new in your area and do what you are supposed to do. But for those who are stuck and discouraged, what is your best advice?
So, just a couple months ago, probably about 8 months ago, I was in a situation where I had kept pitching to get new clients. I kept trying to get the next work, and I got nothing for about almost a year. It was a very long season of what you feel is the valley of the shadow of death. No other way to put it, as David said. And you feel alone, right? Because you can't, there's nothing you can do. You've networked, you've reached out, you've emailed, you've done everything that you can possibly do, and you do go through those seasons. But if you don't go through those seasons of challenging your faith and challenging not just your capability, but your capability to rely on God, that comes back to what you were talking about earlier. That's another way that we remain humble. The Lord doesn't put us in situations to go, "Ha, I'm going to make you humble." But he does, if we want to grow, he will create situations where it is challenging for our faith, where we say, I have the skill, I have the talent, I should get this client, I should get this, but you aren't getting it. That's when you rely on the Lord and you say, because it's not about my gifts, it's not about what I can do, because I can do this, but the Lord is wanting me to trust him in this season when my skill and my gifts aren't quite cutting it for me. And so he allows us to go through those seasons so we can grow. And you know what's funny? I see a lot of my friends in the film industry, and they don't go through these seasons. They just seem to have success and success and success. And I've asked the Lord, why? Why does it feel like I'm the only one that keeps going through these dark seasons? And then I realized why. Because I asked God to create character in me. So he's gonna allow me to grow and put me in situations. And again, back to the comparison, you can't look to the person to the left, to the right. I have 3 other siblings that are all in film, and we've all had a different journey. None of our journeys look the same whatsoever. And I can't look at their journey and say, how come mine isn't like that? How come this doesn't open for me? Because the Lord has a specific calling for me, and I have a specific relationship with the Lord, where he's developing in me what I'm asking for. And I don't know what they're asking for. I don't know their relationship with the Lord. I don't know their end outcome, but I know what God's called me to do. And I know my situation. And so I just have to keep my eyes focused, right? It's like a zero in. You zero in on what you're called to do, And as long as you stay faithful with developing your skill sets, with listening to the Lord, with growing, with staying open, and then conversely, relying on Him, realizing that at the end of the day, your skills, you're not good enough. Your stuff isn't going to get you anywhere, that ultimately it does come from the Lord.
That is so true, because God is more interested in your character, in developing you and growing you to be able to do the mission that He has for you. And the mission that He has for you is far beyond our imagination. You know, many people reading my memoir, Saving My Assassin, or being around me and here in America and seeing the mission that God is giving me, they will say, I never imagined that God will do such an amazing things. Because it's true, when you obey, God shows not only to you, but to everyone, that His mission, His vision for you, it's beyond your imagination. And you cheat yourself when you run before God and you do what you think is the mission. You mess up and you will return to God full of bruises, full of broken pieces, and say, Lord, fix this for me, because I made the mistake. So tell us, what was your joy of waiting for the Lord, not comparing yourself with others, and letting God grow you? Tell us one example.
You know, the Lord really shifted my focus. In the entertainment industry and in the film industry, it tends to be about getting recognition, right? So you're recognized as the producer or the director, your film goes famous, or you get another big opportunity. Just the nature of the industry, of the entertainment industry, it's based around accolades, it's based around praise and recognition. And so I really found my joy and my peace when I shifted my focus and realized it didn't matter if I did get recognition or praise. The only thing that really mattered is if God was proud of me and my focus was on eternity. And we know that's ultimately what we're called for. Every day we know we're called to be yearning for the kingdom of God, because this earth is not our home. But that can become trite, right? We hear it so often, how much do we really focus on that in our everyday life? But the Lord helped me refocus my alignment in that this is all very temporary. And when I realized the joy of eternity that I have, not just, when I die, but to really look forward to what we're going to get to do in heaven, that this is just the test ground. There are amazing things that the Lord has for every single one of us to live in an amazing way in heaven. We're not just going to float on clouds. He's going to take the skill sets we have here and we're going to have a blast. And as soon as I realized that I was also focusing too much on here and wanting people to recognize what I could do here, and when I shifted my focus, I had so much joy and so much peace. And it really did become, first, it started with an acknowledgement, because sometimes you can acknowledge something, but then it has to sit into your spirit, right? So it goes from once you understand something, you have to let the Lord do the work in your heart. And so then when it dropped down into my spirit, it just changes everything. It changes who you are. It changes your outlook. Stuff doesn't even matter anymore. People driving crazy in traffic doesn't even matter anymore, because like, what is that? Oh, I don't care. Have a nice day. Your life changes. It really does. When you allow eternity to always be your focus, the earth really does fade away. And you begin to understand what Paul said. It'd be a lot better if I was up there. You're like, yeah, I kind of get that. It's going to be so much fun. I'm really looking forward to heaven. So anything that happens on earth, you don't just throw it away. You're still faithful, because this is the testing ground and the proving that you're going to be faithful with what the Lord's given you. So you live every day diligent and serving the Lord and a good steward still. You don't disengage. But the flip side is, it goes beyond just what you're doing here on earth.
Working here with skills and talents and mission that God gave us, with the focus on eternity, is the best way to work every single day. And sometimes the good Lord rewards us by, I know in my case, I receive emails or calls from people who read my book and say, I accepted Christ, or I learned how to memorize Bible verses and rely more on God. Or someone said, I read your book and I am so encouraged. But not only that, when I finished the book, God told me to become a lawyer like you. So I'm going to go to law school. And sometimes God used different things, a rainbow, a bird, singing by our window in the time when we are waiting for God answering. He is silent, and we feel, Lord, this is a time and everything. But God reminds us when the birds is singing that if He takes care of her, He will take care of us. God is faithful even when we are not faithful. And there are so many ways that He reminds us, I am with you. I will never forsake you. I have a mission for you. And I hope that people take to heart this, that we all have a mission. If people want to find you, tell our audience where they can find you and read more about you and your journey.
I post most of my professional updates and everything on social media. So I am on Instagram. My Instagram handle is DefCon Blonde, and that's also my X handle. And then you can also look me up on Facebook under my name, Hannah Puder.
Tell that is great. Tell us, what would you say to someone who say, I think I have the talent. Think I have everything that I need that God put in me, but I am so fearful that maybe I won't be able to do it like she does. What is your advice to that person?
You know, it really can be overwhelming, especially if you feel like you have a big vision. Sometimes I wake up and I'm completely overwhelmed because I know where I want to go. And oftentimes you still don't know how to get there. But pick something small that you can do. So, like, I'll just use an example since I've been talking about the film industry. You know, for me, I started off and I was like, okay, I don't want to contract anymore. I want to build my own company, but I got to get clients. Well, I don't know anyone. So how do I do that? But I want to have a huge, film studio, but how do I do that? With no clue where to go. So you have to pick something small to start. You have to start somewhere. So instead of focusing on the big end goal that really does seem impossible and you have no clue how to get there, in my case, I was like, okay, I know these three business owners. They're small business owners. I'll see if they need any production work. So you start there. And then from there, it continued to grow until now, I have other clients and I just finished my own documentary. So pick something obtainable. Pick something small and obtainable that you can do, because one, that's going to grow your confidence in your abilities. Two, you're going to be able to actually get something done and you're going to feel that momentum. And then three, back to the example of being good stewards with talents. You're being faithful in the small and then continue to grow to go to the next level. Like if your desire is to be a singer, audition for the praise team at your church, right? That's a small step, but you can do it. Or maybe you're too terrified to do that step. Well, maybe start with vocal lessons and then audition. And then from there, market yourself as a singer, right? So pick small, tangible steps that you can accomplish instead of looking at the end dream and just saying, well, this is my dream, but God's just going to have to drop it on my lap. He's not gonna. He's not gonna, because you have to do the work. Faith requires action. And when you do the action and the hard work, God will bless the work of your hand.
That is so true. Thank you so very much, Hannah, for being on our podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. I hope you subscribe to our podcast, Courageous Leadership with Virginia Prodan. If you have any question, please go to virginiaprodanbooks.com/contact and Tell us what you need. We are here to help you. Our podcast is every Wednesday and Saturday at 10 o'clock, and we are so delighted to have you. I hope until next time that you are taking our podcast and everything that Hannah shared with us to heart, share with others, and send us your questions about that. Until next time, God bless you. And don't forget, God has a purpose for your life. God has a reason, a mission for you that is beyond your imagination. Take God's hands in your hands and walk with Him towards that mission. And may God bless you. Until next time, bye bye.